Hello, and I hope you're all safe and well. Today we are going to be looking at drawing in perspective. Perspective can be a little bit daunting at the start, but what I'm going to show you is going to really sort of make it easier for you to draw. We're going to look at three different types of perspective: one point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective, all used for different purposes. Okay, there's two keywords here that we're going to use. First one is going to be horizon line. Okay, the horizon line is the eye level, and it's what it's referring to, where the sky meets the land or the water. It's the line. If you were looking at an image, at a landscape, it's that line that your eyes can see. Okay, the horizon line, when put on a page, very rarely will go across the center of a page or a canvas. Generally speaking, the horizon line will go either a third of the way up or a third of the way down. It will very rarely run central along the page. Okay, and the horizon line doesn't always have to be a particularly straight line. If you're drawing mountains, it might be more jagged. If you're drawing rocks, it might be more jagged. If you're drawing hills, you might have more curves on your horizon line. But generally speaking, it will follow a continuous line across the page, or in some cases, maybe even a slight diagonal, but we like to keep it sort of horizontal for this. The second keyword that we're going to be looking at is vanishing points. Okay, now the vanishing points are the points of the picture whereby your lines are going to meet. Okay, that's how the picture is going to vanish away to. So if you're looking at this house here, for example, you'll see these lines all come down to these vanishing points as we're looking at it. But what I'll do is I'll explain that in a little bit more detail, and the horizon line, as we go along. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to draw now is we're going to draw in the 1-point perspective. That's what I want to show you. So to draw 1-point perspective, what we're going to do is I'm going to perhaps just sketch out a little cityscape doing this. You're going to draw your horizon line. Okay, so your horizon line goes across the page. That, if you remember, that's the eye level. Okay, that's where the sky meets the land. That's the horizon line. And then we're just gonna put in that there. Okay, now I'm going to put the vanishing point. So the vanishing point here is in the center. Okay, so this is my vanishing point. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this in an orange felt tip pen so you can see it a little bit more clearly. And everything is going to meet into this one vanishing point. Okay, so when we look at 1-point perspective, this is used to add depth to a picture if we're looking straight at it. So if we're, say, for example, stood in a room and we're looking straight at something, not at an angle, but straight at it, this is when you're going to use your 1-point perspective. If you think of paintings such as Lowry and stuff like that, that's when you're going to start to think about 1-point perspective. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to put a building in here. Okay, so I'm going to put a building in here in the first part of my cityscape, and I'm just going to draw my lines coming down to the point there, and I'm going to put a roof on this building. Okay, and I'm going to draw it, pulling it down there, and I'm going to put an end on the building here like this, and I'm going to draw my line going down. Okay, and I might want to add some different size buildings to my picture. And so I'm going to put another building in here. I am going to explain this more clearly on the other side. I'm just giving you an example for now as to how we can use this this vanishing point here. I'm going to do another building there. Okay. And then I'm going to, on the side of this building, I'm going to put a taller building. And it's going to come down the back. There. Right, so if we look at what I've drawn here so far, I have drawn a building here. Okay, taking out the lines that we've drawn in there, and I've put in a little building here, and I put a little building in sort of down the side here. Okay, so this is all going in to the vanishing line there that I've put. Now I might want to put a door in this building as well, and using a very similar principle, I am going to follow my lines down, and I can put a door in there. And then if I put a door in this building, I can follow the same line, and my doors are all going to be in perspective with each other. Okay. When I say perspective, what I mean by that is that in terms of size, they're all relative to each other. So if I drew a door here, and then I drew a door further down the street, which was the same size as this door, it wouldn't be in perspective. It wouldn't be relative to each other within the context of this picture. Okay, that's what I mean by that. And then I might even want to put a window, and I'm using my vanishing line again, just drawing my line from here to here, using my vanishing line, and I'm going to put in a window here. Okay, very quick and simple drawing, and keep my line here. I can put in another window down here, and so on. Okay, so how did I do that to start with? Well, first of all, what I did is I drew in the side of my building. Now I'm just going to do a quick line across here because I want my street to be level with each other, because we're looking straight on at this. So and then what I did is I drew a basic box. So I've got 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines that are straight. Okay, so that's what I drew to start with. And then on the top of that, I'm going to draw a triangle like so. And that's going to be the side view of my house. So I'm looking at this house from the side. Now, I'm going to take from my corner points of my first shape, my rectangle, and I'm going to draw lines diagonally towards my vanishing point. Okay, so I've drawn this, and then I've drawn a triangle. So I've got my rectangle, and then a triangle, and then I've got my lines coming into my vanishing point here. And then from the top of the apex of my house that I'm drawing, I am then going to draw another line coming down into my vanishing point. Every line that we do that's horizontal is going to go into that vanishing point, this one vanishing point here. That's what you need to remember. And then I'm going to draw another one and put in another line there. And then if I ink over this, you'll see it more clearly. You can start to see the house sort of come together. Okay. So this is how we get this depth into our picture, and how we get this feeling that the picture's sort of going away from us. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do next is show you 2-point perspective, which works very similar to the 1-point, only we're drifting out to the sides this time. So I am going to draw my horizon line across the page here. Now remember, this is the eye line. This is where the viewer of your picture can see. It's where the sky meets the land. I'm going to put the corner of my building here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put my vanishing points. So on this horizon line, I'm just going to backtrack before I put in that line, and I'm going to put 2 vanishing points either side. And this is why it's called 2-point perspective, because we've got 2 points, 2 vanishing points on our picture. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, so I've put in my vertical line here, the corner of the building. I am then going to draw down from this. So this is going to be the top of my house. This is going to be the bottom of my house. And then from each point of this, I am drawing down to my vanishing points and up to my vanishing points. Like this, keeping these lines on an angle. So everything is going to disappear to these vanishing points, okay? And then I'm going to put in the back of my building here. So then we end up with this. I'm just going to ink in what we're looking at. The reason I'm inking this in is because it does get a little bit confusing when I'm trying to explain, and you can only see lines and pencil. So I'm going to ink it in to make it a little clearer. So we started off with our vertical line here, and then we drew in these lines here going to our vanishing point. So we've got our vanishing points here, and we ended up with a box there like that. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to add a door into the front of my house. Okay, so that I can get into it. So my door is going to be roughly that high. Okay, and then again I'm going to use my vanishing line. And I can add in the second side of my door, like so, and then I end up with a door. And then I think I want to put a window in my house. So using the same line at the top of my door, I can use the same line again coming down here, and I can put in a window in the side of my house, and everything is going to disappear into that vanishing line. I'm going to put some windows in the top of my house as well. So I'm going to pick a point where I want my windows to be, and I'm going to draw my line going to the vanishing point, and it's going to go out like that to the vanishing point. And I'm going to put 2 windows this time in the top of my house, and they go like that. Okay. And then I've got 2 windows. Okay. Now I want to put a window on the other side of my house, and I want this window to be size-wise, I want it to be relative to this size here. So where the lines here have met, these 2 lines here, I am going to draw from there down to this vanishing line, like that. Okay, and then I can put in my windows, like that. And then I can put in the window, and it all stays relative to the size that we're drawing. And the same goes for the door. If I want to put a door right at the back here, it's going to be much smaller than this door because it's further away. So I'm going to go from the line from the top of my door here, and I'm going to draw it the other way to this vanishing point. And then I can put in a door there. Okay. Like that. Okay. And if I want to put a roof on my house, that is perfectly fine. I can put a roof on my house. So I'm going to find roughly what would be the center of the house there, and I'm going to draw a line up from the center. And as before on here, I'm going to put a triangle, sort of triangular apex onto the top of my house. I'm just going to tilt my page slightly. I'm just going to make it more of an apex so you can see, so you can better see what I'm trying to do. And then it's going to come down here like so, and it's going to come up, and there we have the roof on my house. Okay, so this is 2-point perspective, is the more common perspective that you will probably find yourself using. This can also be adapted and played around with, used to draw cars, motorbikes, and all sorts of things, if you want to put it into some sort of perspective there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to draw 3-point perspective. 3-point perspective is something that is probably less common. You use less really, because it's for drawing really big things. Like say if you're drawing the sort of the hull of a ship, for example, or a big tree that's just going up into the sky, that's when you use 3-point perspective. Okay, so the 3 points that you're going to use. So first of all, as always, we're going to use the horizon line. Okay, so the horizon line is going to go across here, across the bottom here. Okay, and then on that horizon line, we are going to add in our first 2 points. So that's going to be the same as the 2-point perspective that we did there. It's going to be the same principles really from there. And the difference here is we're going to have a third point, which you might not always be able to draw on your page, but your third point is going to be way up there. Okay, that's going to be your third point, and I will get to when that's going to be important in a second. But for now, we're just going to draw a vertical line coming down, and there we go. That's going to be the bottom of my building, and this is going to be the top of my building here. Okay, and then I'm going to, before I start putting in the other lines, because we've got this third point, I am going to draw in my vertical lines, sorry, my horizontal lines first, which do look vertical, but it's kind of, it's going like this. I'm just referring to them as horizontal lines. Okay, to give me the shape like that. Okay, now if you imagine that our building is going up really tall, and as you look at something that goes up into the sky, and likewise if you're looking down, it gets much smaller as it's going down. So our vertical lines here are going to be drifting off to that third point up in the sky there. So they're going to be on an angle. So they're going up to that third point. And you'd use this if you're drawing a big building coming out of a big city, or a tree. If you've got a big tree in your city, you'd use it then. Okay, and then you should, if we ink this over, you should be left with something that looks like that. Okay, so if we imagine this is going to be a huge skyscraper, and on our huge skyscraper we're going to have a very small door at the bottom to add to that sort of size, and we're thinking, where's that? So all our lines for all our windows are all going to go up to that third perspective up in the sky there, and then we're going to add a tiny little door. And again, coming from the top, from my vanishing point there, I'm going to add a tiny little door here into it, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to add in a sign, and you can use this to add in words. And I'm going to call this Ollie Tower. I've got my own tower, there you go. And that is 3-point perspective, used less often. Now I've shown you how to do this using buildings, but you can use this in lots of ways. As I've mentioned there, you can use it to draw trees, if you were drawing trees. If you were drawing, for example, a car, you might want to use your 2-point perspective. So you take your horizon line here, and then we put in our points here, and then we start off with our first box, and that's what's given us our perspective. Like so. Okay, and then what we can do is we can go from this point here, I can go down. I think one of my wheels in my car are going to be in line there. This is very, very rough. I'm sure your cars are going to be much more beautiful than this. The bottom of my car is going to run here, which means it's going to come over here. And you can start to almost carve out the car out of the box that you've drawn to add some perspective to it, to give it that sense of depth, which is what we're looking for. It's more drawing like an illusion, as much as anything, the illusion drawings that you see. And then I'm just gonna add this in here, and again I can add in what you'll see I'm doing now. Actually, this is quite an interesting point. This is where it can get a bit confusing. I'm coming back to this. I'm on this side, but because my line is going away that way, I'm coming back to this. Okay, so you've always got to shift your central line to make sure that you're using the correct vanishing point. So sort of think about the vanishing point that you're constantly using to get your perspective in your drawing. And then if we ink over my car, back there, and you can see we've got a car there that's carved out of the block. Okay. So the important key points to remember from this is your horizon line. Your horizon line is always going to be straight, unless you have rocks or trees or hills or anything like that. It's going to be from point A to point B. Your 2 vanishing points. So in the 1 point perspective, we had 1 vanishing point and everything went down into that vanishing point. In the 2 point perspective, we had 2 vanishing points and everything went back into these vanishing points here. Okay, so everything from this side of the drawing went into this one. Everything from this side of the drawing went into this one. Okay, and we talked a little bit in the car about if we're moving the central line, say from here to here, we move our vanishing points. We move our lines to the vanishing points accordingly. Okay. So, and then with the 3 point perspective, we did it's the same as the 2. The only difference is way up there in the sky, we put a 3rd point, which is where our vertical lines here met, so that we gave that illusion that the building was going way up into the sky and getting even smaller as we look at it. Okay, and we can use this in things like huge buildings or in trees, or if we were looking at a large vehicle from quite low down, from like an ant perspective, that's when we would perhaps use this sort of perspective. Okay, so what I would like you to do as part of this lesson is to go away, have a play with the different sorts of perspectives that we've got here and see what you can come up with, carve them out, like using for drawing cars, or drawing scenes to put your manga characters in, and all sorts of things like that. Okay, maybe draw your streets perhaps. Okay, well, take care, and until the next video, I will see you soon.